attest personally. Had a couple of burly boys with him, and all of them saw. Did Kyrie get booed, or do people not care anymore?
I didn't get there in time to see how people reacted because of the snow. So we were a little late getting in, then we had to go through the VIP entrance, so we had to do some vaccination
Pardon
stuff.
me,
I know.
this guy over here. We were late getting in.
You can be burly boys and you can be hoity-toity. I mean, it's not exclusively
They got a
mutual.
nice reach into both communities, don't they? Burly boys and fancy.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, though.
Wow.
And we got to go to the executive lounge or something like that. I don't know. It was nice.
Guy over here.
It was cool. It was very cool.
I mean, I'm going to we're doing a staff Cavs game next week.
I'll be going to that.
Well, yeah, I'll go too, but that's as far as I get.
Well, listen.
I don't get no VIP burly boy access.
This is thanks to my friend over at the Spotted Owl. He's like, hey, nobody came to the game today, so we got a bunch of tickets. So if you guys want to be upgraded, because we're going to be like where I usually am in like the mid bowl, and because people couldn't make it to the game because of the weather, we got lucky. So thanks, Will.
I see. So you give them a free mention on the show. They give you VIP Cavs tickets.
No, he didn't even talk to me about it.
Understood.
I just thought it'd be nice to thank my friend Will.
This kind of
that works at a place. I won't even say what place it was. He's just a fancy guy.
He did say
You
the
just
place.
said where he worked.
I won't say it again.
This guy. It's going to make Mary sneeze over here.
Did you see it coming and then
Yes,
it stopped?
that's
I've
right.
been sneezing for 2 straight days. I have weird wintertime
You
allergies.
should probably look into that.
My friend who I went to dinner last night with his doctor, and she said, you might have allergies. I said, in the wintertime? She said, yeah, you can have allergies.
Do you want to
in the
give them
winter.
a free plug where they work?
Jane.
Not the person.
Oh, I don't know where she works.
Jane.
She lives in D.C.
Anywho,
Dr. Jane.
tomorrow night, Cavs back on the court in Chicago against the Bulls. That'll be an 8 o'clock start tomorrow night here on WMMS. So 7:30 is when your pregame coverage will begin. And the Cavs come back home on Saturday. And they'll be here for a few days. They can play the Knicks. They're going to play the Bucks. All kinds of stuff. So Cavs are off tonight. You'll get the full Jason Carr experience tonight on MMS after 6:30.
He's a breath of fresh air in the evenings.
In the evenings. There have been a lot of stale air in the evenings. Now, he's far too humble to refer to himself as a breath of fresh air.
Is he, though?
He referred to someone else as that,
I know.
not himself. Alan Cox Show After Hours line. We had a long weekend, so a lot of people left messages. And you can follow their lead anytime the mood strikes. It's 216-986-8903.
This is Mike in Charlotte, and I'm listening to the podcast from last week where you guys were talking about the boroughs of New York City. I can't contain my laughter because of how absurd that was. Is Justin Bibb the mayor of Tremont and Huff? I was hoping that maybe you guys could clear that up for me. Also, if you could play that audio back, but at half speed, I think it would be a great stoner conversation.
Yeah, I was going to New York for the weekend, and we got into some weird conversation. Poundcake didn't know if each of the boroughs had their own mayor.
And I thought they did. And
I was under the impression that they did not, but I made the mistake of Googling mayor of Brooklyn, and a guy's name came up. I think they just end up there is some public position that is not mayor, because of course Eric Adams or anybody is the mayor of all of New York. Bill lived there, and I defer to you. You made it sound like you knew what you're talking about.
That's my gift, Alan. Mary loves it.
Making it so. I mean, that's all any of us are doing.
Yeah.
Here, well, but because Mike requested, the great Mike Cousins over at ESPN there, he recently moved to Charlotte, so he's one of our bureau chiefs there now. I will play that conversation back at half speed.
Boroughs of New York are all different municipalities. So
like they have their own mayor. They have they're like.
By the way, this is all wrong. None of this is correct, right?
Wrong, yeah.
But the fact that we sound drunk makes it a little bit more palatable, I think.
So
like they have their own mayor. They have they're like distinct administrative.
I didn't know that. I thought it was all New York
So wait,
It's all New York City, but they have like Bronx police and Brooklyn police and
And a Brooklyn mayor and a Staten Island.
Right, it's all wrong. I mean,
you're all
NYPD covers all of the boroughs.
Which we got to eventually.
We
figured
did
it
get
out.
there.
Yeah, shut up, guys. I
That's
knew it.
right.
Yeah.
But
Poundcake was right again.
But it's also, we get into so many conversations on this show where it's like if somebody asks you to define a very common word and you go, well, how would you define that? Even though you use it all the time, you know, hey, people they'll just ask a question that in your brain you go, well, surely I know the answer to this.
Define.
Is the mayor of New York the mayor of all of New York? Of course, we should have all said, of course he is, yes.
I had no idea.
But you go, well...
I thought it was different.
I was gonna say New York
But
is
we
not
got
just
there.
Manhattan. I was like, that's so like discriminatory.
Well, but that's why it was so confusing to me, because I had a Long Island City address when I lived in New York, so I thought,
Well, someone called
if I'm got a different address, I thought it would be technically a different city.
But you lived in Queens.
Right, and that's so I thought there would be like a guy for Queens and a guy.
So you lived in
Yeah.
Queens and didn't know who your mayor was? Or you didn't know if you had a mayor?
I don't know who my mayor is right now.
But you didn't even know if you had a mayor.
You don't know who the mayor of Lakewood,
no,
Ohio is?
it's George something.
It's a
Costanza.
chick, right?
Yeah, lady something.
Lady George.
Someone
Last name
called
Lady
in.
George is the mayor of Lakewood, Ohio right now.
Miranda George or something.
She's a young woman.
Yeah.
Yeah. Megan George.
Megan George,
is the
yes.
mayor of Lakewood, Ohio.
Got the M.
There you go. Graduate of Lakewood High School. Goes a long way. They don't want some carpetbagger coming in and going, I want to run this one-horse town. Because a lot of the suburbs and stuff, the mayor has like a day job. You know what I mean? Like they're not, some of these places, you'll make some money being the mayor. Other places you won't.
Have you known all the mayors of all the places you've lived?
Everywhere I've ever lived. I can recite them. There was Jill, and then Tom.
Jill and Tom. Oh, I lived in Pittsburgh when Tom was the mayor too.
see?
Yeah, right.
I never knew you lived in Pittsburgh.
Yep.
I
met
did.
you.
Tom was the mayor.
Mayor Tom.
Mayor Tom.
You see him and you go, what's up, Tom?
Yep. My buddy Bill was the mayor for the last few years, but when I lived there, though, it was Tom.
The only two mayors I remember in Berea were Mayor Joseph Biddlecombe,
Biddlecombe.
and Cyril Kleem.
These are great names. Cyril Kleem and Biddlecombe.
Joseph Biddlecombe.
Joseph Biddlecombe. Were these both Bereans, native Bereans?
I would assume.
Right?
Don't you have to be born in the city to
No.
be the mayor?
Lori,
It's not like the president?
Lori Lightfoot is the mayor of Chicago. She's from Massillon.
Oh, yeah.
So you don't have to be. I mean, I think obviously people are going to elect you if you've been a resident for a while. But
If
she's
you
not.
know the city,
Yeah, she's not a
yeah.
Chicago native. Yeah.
There's I think the Rocky River, it's a chick named Pam. Pam?
Pam.
Well, I get
Two
those.
M's,
I get
yeah.
those pamphlets all the time that are like Rocky River Living or whatever, and her name's always on. It's Pam, I think. Pamela.
Rocky River Living.
They are.
Oh, I love those.
They send out like a newsletter.
I know, we
once
get
a
them in
month.
where
I'm
I
like,
live
what
too.
is this?
You couldn't charge one thin gilder for these things, but they send them to you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
Liquid
never
sends
read them.
stuff
I
like
throw them
that,
right
yeah.
away.
You throw them away. You don't want to know about your community.
I'm not going. What am I going to do in the community? It's January.
I'm not doing anything either, but I'm keeping up on what. Yes, I'm keeping up on what's going on.
You read through it.
Yes, I want to know where my tax dollars are going. We're getting some brand new gleaming public library where I live. That's important to me. I have a small child. It's important to me
Yeah.
to at least give the illusion of trying to further people's civic education.
Sure. I don't. I throw it right away.
Certainly can't be blamed for that either.
No.
What, Poundcake?
Actually, the caller on line one was going to tell you what I was going to tell you, because there was a caller that called in when we were talking about the different boroughs. And yeah.
What's up, Sean?
Hey, Alan. So in Cody's defense, I'm pretty sure that all 5 boroughs of New York City are their own separate counties. So that could be a little confusing, too, because they have their own county commissioner. And
I think that's what I was looking at. If you were to Google, like, mayor of Queens, somebody's name would come up, and I think that's what...
Yeah, exactly.
Again, you're never going to believe this.
Weird.
Google isn't always correct either, so...
They're also known as the
that's
bureau,
what
the borough presidents,
There you go.
also known as the beeps.
Yeah. See, I'm still confused about Los Angeles, if Hollywood is actually Los Angeles proper or not.
I'll let you know next week.
Yeah, well, that's where I lived. I mean, that's all L.A. County. I mean, most of that is L.A. County.
Well, yeah.
But L.A. is a bunch of suburbs trying to be a city, too. So,
yeah, well, that's Cleveland, you know. You got Cleveland Heights, Shaker Heights, and it's all one county.
So many heights in so much flat area. How are there so many heights in so much flat area? I don't know. All right, thank you, Sean.
That's all right. I was just calling to kind of stick up for Cody there, you know.
It wasn't me that said it. I said New York was all one thing. It was you're sticking up for them.
Well, I can understand why it's confusing, though, you know, because it really is kind of confusing.
I just thought there was one more borough than there actually was. I thought there were 6. You're
No,
telling me there's
Harlem.
5.
This is why we here on the show are always treading on very soft ground, Sean, because we're already genuinely confused about things. So when something shows up that can really jam us up, we can really get screwed up. So thank you, Sean. I appreciate it. I got $1,000 to give to you here. There is zero confusion about that. It is 1 and I'm going to say 3 zeros after that. But it's a
Go
chance,
to the website
chance for you
because there is some confusion.
to go fund yourself. So listen closely and good luck.
The Buzzard wants you to go fund yourself and score $1,000. Enter the nationwide keyword FUN at WMMS.com. That's fun. Enter it now at WMMS.com. And good luck from Buzzard Radio.
I'm too sexy for my love. Too sexy for my love. Love's going to leave me. Shirt so sexy it hurts, and I am too sexy for Milan, too sexy for Milan, New York.
Did you see these guys pop back up in the news?
I think this is something that you tweeted out.
Redhead Fred? Right, Fred?
Well, yeah,
Red said Fred?
I
What
think
is
I
it?
was making the joke everybody else. I said alt-right said Fred, but somebody replied to me and said Reich said Fred, which was pretty good too. The right said Fred guys are, a lot of people think they're German, which would track given their vibe, but no, they're a couple of British guys. But they were back in the news because apparently they're very anti-vax. If you follow Right Said Fred, and who the hell is doing that? If you follow them on social media, it's all these anti-vax posts. And so even for people who don't really care about that, these guys were like getting plugged on neo-Nazi websites or something. Mm-hmm. So boy, out of all the ways to return back into the public consciousness, that's the last thing you want. Now, obviously, the Right Said Fred guys look like two dudes who would fit the stereotype, but they're back in the... This is going to garner them an all-new audience of psychopaths. You know, you can get back in the news for this stuff, and you'll get all kinds of people who might have hated you before because they thought these dudes were gay, or they might be. What the hell do I know?
But do you think...
They're actually brothers. They're not gay. They're brothers. Fred and Richard Fairbrass. Our Right Said Fred. So one of them is named Fred. Now, of course, their spokesman has said that that was all a mistake, and that they didn't know that the guy they were talking to was a neo-Nazi and a Holocaust denier. And, of course, the guy later on said, I never thought Right Said Fred would ever share any of my content, but here we are. And the brothers were like, oh, we didn't know that's what that is.
How long before Trump walks out to this at one of his
I'm too sexy
things? Yeah.
I don't know. Is he doing those again? Is he doing like rallies and stuff? Yeah.
I mean, does he ever stop doing them? I feel like he's doing them all.
Oh,
the
I
time.
don't know. I don't know. They're not really newsworthy anymore. So yeah, this guy. I guess they did some webcast, and it was getting shared, and you know. But again, if you're Right Said Fred, you can make the argument they should be doing some diligence with anyone who wants to talk to them. But you had one hit, so anybody who wants to talk to you, you can't believe anybody wants to talk to you. Two musicians with opinions that don't fit the mainstream news media narrative is how this went out on like a lot of right-wing sites. And because, unfortunately, the Venn diagram of anti-vaxxers and Nazis, it's not a circle, But there's a lot of meeting in the middle. So there's not going to be... they're not two groups that are constantly at odds with each other.
Yeah, there's overlap.
But the Right Said Fred guys had to do a little bit of backpedaling. They're staunchly anti-vax and anti-mask and all that, but they're like, look, we're not Nazis. We're
models. Yeah. Said in our song.
We were on the catwalk.
Mm-hmm. It wasn't a whites-only catwalk. We let everybody on the catwalk.
What,
anyone that's beautiful, of course. You
of
can't
course.
get in there if you're ugly.
Yes.
Ugly people can't get on the catwalk.
I mean, was it early 90s? I'm Too Sexy was a thing? So early 90s. There was no way that you were going to be walking the catwalk with all people who look like you. A couple of jacked, white, bald dudes. Nobody looked like that in the catwalk. You were with the Tyras and the who else? And the Naomi Campbells and the Linda Evangelistas.
Now,
of course, again, you take you hang out with those people long enough, and you'll get to talking, and who knows who thinks what.
Are you saying that they were not models on the catwalk?
What I'm saying, Bill, is that if you take the word Tyra and add an NT...
So stupid.
You see where it's all going.
Can I spell with Tyra?
Tyra Nunt.
You see where it's all going.
I see where it's going. Isn't she coming back with a new show or something?
Oh, no.
She had a show for a long time.
I want it to be
Poundcake loves that. Boy.
Tyra on TNT. That's what I want. Tyrant.
Her talk show was very funny. Not for the right reasons.
My George, stop. America's Next Top Tyrant.
There you go. Poundcake laughing at fat people.
Her fat suit episode. Did you ever watch that one, Poundcake?
I saw the homeless one. That was one of the only.
Oh, yeah.
And she was homeless, and they were like, "Aren't you Tyra Banks?"
And
no.
She's like, I'm not.
What? She went undercover as homeless?
Yeah, she didn't go that hard at trying to look homeless.
She's not a good model.
I like Tyra. I mean, for all of the opinions people had about her, people that worked on that show said she was real sweet.
That's great.
Yeah.
I just thought that some of the episodes, like
the homeless episode,
the homeless episodes and the fat suit episode are kind of the only thing I know about the show. So I don't really know, but I just know that those were these stunts that she tried to pull off that didn't go well.
Aren't you Tyra Banks?
No.
Yeah, I believe that she's nice. I've never heard one awful word about her.
Oh, no, I heard plenty awful words about her. That's why I think some people were surprised, people who actually worked on that show.
Like she's mean?
Yeah, like she thought she was hot stuff.
She was, though.
No, but some people don't act that way and some people do. And there were, there are always comments that she just wasn't nice to people, but people who worked with her on that talk show were like, she's really sweet.
I mean,
and they didn't sound like they were commenting under pain of death. That show's not even on anymore. I saw... Because when America's Next Top Model started, I was way into that show. So
why?
I'm sure I was dating somebody who was making me watch at the time, but I got into it. It's not hard to get into those shows, and I think I knew somebody who was on one of the seasons anyway. I watched easily the first 3 or 4 seasons of that show, so I saw way more of her on there than I saw. I didn't really watch that talk show.
Yeah. Good show. ANTM.
And now we've spun off into something that had nothing to do with what we were talking about. That's okay. Stephen Canton is telling me that mayor's name is Pam Alama Ding Dong. So that's good to know.
Balam is your last name.
Pam Balam. Whoa, Black Betty. I've got to take a break. If you want to get a text, yes?
That's her deputy mayor.
Indeed. You want to get a text for anything, 35192. I'll see those. And you can listen anywhere on the iHeartRadio app.
The Alan Cox Show.